All right. This story is from a viewer like you. And if you would like to submit a new story for me to read during these new segments that we do 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, hit me up at my email, aaron@subbrief.com. I'm the only one that reads it. It will get read by me. If the story is interesting enough, like this one is, I will bring it to the stream. So thank you, Chris, for pointing me in the direction of this video or this story here. From pri.org, a publication I'm not familiar with, so I would not have known about the story had he not sent it to me. The U.S. is building a military base in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Micronesia residents have questions. I meant to bring up this map, and I forgot, so I'm going to go ahead and do it now, but I want to show you where this is. I'm going to bring up the map here in just a second. As soon as Google gets off its butt. Okay. Google's not cooperating with me anyway. So it's a it's a chain of small islands south of Guam, kind of close to the Marshall Islands, sort of, just down in that region of the world. See, the U.S. is slated to get a new military base, this time in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Not exactly the middle, but yeah, far enough away from Honolulu, like 37 miles away from Hawaii, 3,700 miles away from Hawaii. So the move is seen as another component in the Biden administration's continued effort to increase the footprint in Oceania. That's part of a larger strategy to increase the United States presence in and around the China Seas, East and South China Seas. However, details of the base so far have been scarce, causing anxiety for some FSM citizens who are worried about disruptions in their way of life. Yeah, anytime the Americans start building a base, in your country, it's ripe for corruption, bribes, crime may go up. Look at what happened in Japan. As much as we don't like to talk about it, a lot of sailors and Marine Corps in Japan caused trouble for the locals there, and the locals didn't want them. There was a big push, I think it was in the 90s, to close the base, or at least kick the Americans out of the base and keep the base for, just the Japanese Maritime Defense Force only. And luckily, we calmed those down. But one of the ways we calm that down is by locking the sailors on the base, by not letting them go off the base. Yeah. So you can expect some things like that could happen whenever they want to build a military base in your country. Sam 41 has lots of questions about the new military base. How big? What kind of base is it going to be? All those questions are very simply up in the air from us, Sam says to the piece here. I can't say his last name, that's why I'm skipping it. Sam, who now lives and works in the U.S. territory of Guam, still has siblings and other family back in Yap at the Federated States of Micronesia, 4 states. Anytime there's a sudden change in the land, or to the land, you can affect the identity of native islanders. Absolutely. Especially with very small islands like this. It's a very small, tight-knit culture, and you're going to impact it with this new, overwhelming, American force there, culturally overwhelming. This will alter the social landscape of our islands. Look at what we did to Hawaii and the Hawaiian culture there over the years. So our islands are very, very small. Any type of changes to our lifestyle will affect us greatly. He's not wrong. And he's right to be concerned about that. The U.S. military record in the Pacific has a checkered past. Yeah, no kidding. He says from colonization of the Philippines to nuclear testing of the Marshall Islands. And the examples that I put out about Japan and Hawaii. Look at what we did there. Today, the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command already has some 375,000 military and civilian personnel working across the entire Asian Pacific. Yeah. Federated States of Micronesia did not respond to the world's request about how or if they plan to incorporate that to the public. Well, one thing that Micronesia is definitely getting is money from the United States. That's the incentive here. Like from our perspective in America, we want another base in that region that we can station troops and operate from and not take 10, 15 days to cross the Pacific from San Diego, right? We want troops already forward deployed so we can rapidly get them into a high attrition conflict should that arise. That's why that's important to us. So, but from their point of view, in order to get that, we're going to give them a lot of cash. Plus the military or the economic benefits of having a military base are pretty good. The Philippines, found that out when they kicked us out of the Philippines in the 1990s. Suddenly their economy around Manila went to shit because a lot of it was a service-based economy servicing U.S. servicemen, taking their money, you know, whether it was a simple pub or other activities that went on in Manila that I will not talk about. It was a very lucrative industry there that went away almost overnight when they kicked out the Americans. And I say kicked out because that's what they did. They kicked us out. They made a vote and they were like, get out of here. Okay, preparing for China's military capabilities. Beijing has had a diplomatic relation with the Federated States of Micronesia for more than 30 years. So far, there's been no real reaction to the forthcoming base. The two nations engage in millions of dollars of trade annually, says the Observatory for Economic Complexity. The president, Panuelo, told the Australian Broadcasting Corporation that in managing his relationship with the U.S. and China, Micronesia interests come first. Yeah, so maybe they can play a little bit of both sides. That's a dangerous line to walk, but they can do that. Afghanistan did that for 20 years, and look where they're at now. Of course, that's totally different. That's apples and oranges right there. Anyway, really cool story. A new base that I was not aware of. Apparently, the ink is already on the paper. This is definitely happening. What the story really is about now is now that the decision has been made, how will it impact the people of Micronesia? Hopefully, it's a positive economic impact. We'll see what the cultural impact is in 20, 30 years. All right, what do you guys think? Hayde says Singapore can be playing both sides for decades. Singapore is a great example of doing it right. Yeah, playing both sides and economically benefiting from it. The president and the economic councils of Micronesia should look to Singapore and model how they approach this problem. But like I said, they're building the base. It's happening. There's no turning that around now. Tropico Pacifico. Yeah. Maybe we'll do a Tropico stream sometime and we'll call it Micronesia. Should be fun. All right. Let's go to the WarZone. The WarZone is a great publication by The Drive. It's published and run by Tyler Rogaway, but this story is one of the staff writers, Joseph Therafik, talking about a nuclear submarine, formerly USS San Francisco, the one that hit the underwater seamount and all that, is going to become a floating schoolhouse. And what they're doing is they're essentially upgrading the floating schoolhouse that we had for decades in South Carolina for running a nuclear power plant in a training environment on a non-operational submarine. But the nuke students that go there get real hands-on experience, whether they're a reactor operator or just a machinist mate. They can go and work on actual components that they're going to then work on operational submarines. So this is a maritime training sub, MTS. Let's go ahead and read from the piece before I give it all away. Mr. Joseph Thevik says, last week, the U.S. Navy towed a curious-looking Los Angeles-class nuclear attack submarine with a new boxy building-like sail that looked like it belongs on a submarine-themed amusement park attraction to its new home, Charleston, South Carolina. The submarine, USS San Francisco, is actually not much of a submarine at all. It is now set to be used as a moored training ship, an MTS, for sailors learning how to operate and maintain nuclear reactors. So he's talking about the sail here has been completely redone and much easier to get in and out of. Yeah. So you can go from a boat if you need to, or straight from a plank, climb right up and get inside very easily. There's another picture of it here. Let's see. What will eventually be formally redesignated as MTS San Francisco, with its hull number subsequently changed to MTS 711, arrived in Charleston on April 16th. The training vessel will be assigned to Nuclear Power Training Unit MPTU Charleston, which already hosts MTS converted from decommissioned Los Angeles class boat, former USS La Jolla. I didn't know La Jolla had ended up there. That's interesting. Which was delivered back in 2019. So now they have two of these. It gives you an idea of how much nuclear power training is going on. Like we're training a lot of nukes because remember, we're increasing the number of submarines we build every year from 2 a year to 3 a year starting next year. So we're going to need a lot more nukes and sonarmen that are good. This project has definitely been a marathon rather than a sprint, but but the project team has kept up its endurance as we near the finish line, says Charles Brock, the superintendent of the conversion project, which was carried out at Norfolk Naval Shipyard in Virginia. Given the extensive work required, it's taken a lot of effort and teaming not only within the very department of the shipyard, but with all nuclear capable shipyards, both public and private, and all naval nuclear laboratories to get the ship tested and ready for tow. Yeah, towing a ship that's essentially, it doesn't have any propulsion of its own is very dangerous, very hazardous, you know. So they managed to do that safely, which is quite the milestone. The new hull sections arrived from General Dynamics Electric Boat via barge, according to the Navy, NNSY. Craned hull sections averaging 700 tons into the dock and attached them to the San Francisco. So that's the extensive modifications that they've done to this thing. It's a submarine in shape only at this point. Yeah, it's essentially a nuclear power plant with some, classroom and storage and probably some bunk still. I wonder if they probably have an overnight watch, I would think. Yeah. There's a YouTube video there you can watch. Oh, and there you go. You got the two of them side by side there. This looks a lot like the waterfront on, I know this is Charleston, but it's very similar to Kings Bay. But look like they got three of them right here in a row. So you have all these support facilities, classrooms. Yeah. So whenever you go to nuke school, it's in a couple different parts. You have the classroom part that you go to first. And once you get done the classroom training, you go to Charleston, South Carolina, and you spend time here operating actual nuclear reactors in this training environment. Very cool program. It's been around for decades. You can thank Rickover for this. And this is why whenever the nukes come on board, they're already versed in a lot of the systems on board submarines, especially back in the engine room. They get a bit of a head start on us coners. Let's see what Chad has to say about this. Jack says, no more running submarine reactors in Idaho Desert. I don't know anything about that program, Jax. Yeah. Americans need a better work-life balance. Yeah, they do. Sure. I would agree with that. Johnny Clueless says, I love your name, sir. Johnny says, it's hard to get accepted into the program where you work on reactors. Yeah, it's a pretty high requirement. You have to pass a lot of scholastic tests. There's a test that you take before you even join the Navy to see if you even qualify to go to the school. And a lot of people drop out of the school for failing reasons, like not medical like it is with SEAL training. They just can't pass the written exams at a high enough level, which is pretty high. It's not like getting a D in high school. You got to have an AB average to get through nuke school. We probably have some nukes in the chat that can add to this. I didn't go to nuke school, so I know nothing about this program. I just saw the graduates who came to the submarine I was already assigned to, and they were pretty smart cookies, even though I gave them a hard time. I mean, that's my job as a sonarman, is to make fun of the nukes. Yeah. Derp says, does this mean that the school up in northern Idaho is being shut down? I don't know. I don't know anything about that. It says, this is a dumb question, says Halo Pilot, but what do nukes do after they finish the Navy? Anything they want to do. Some of them make Twitch channels, not talking about mine, but other streamers. I don't know. I mean, maybe they finished their graduate degree, maybe. Let's see. Fabulous says, gotta admit that it's very cinematic shot, but it looks so many pictures that you've seen in the Patreon subbriefs. Oh yeah. Only I can't talk about these. One, I don't know anything about them, but even if I wrote a subbrief, I couldn't talk about American systems. That's one of the agreements that I have. Ivan says, last time you forgot to unmute your microphone, just make the excuse that you're a submariner and you don't want the enemy to hear you. All right. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Anyway, really great story by the WarZone, written by Joseph. Definitely check it out. The WarZone has lots of great stories. I'm just picking one of them. They have new stories all the time on that website. All right, let's move on to Japan. Japan has a brand new ship, folks. That's right. The new 30 FFM frigate named Kumano started sea trials. Pictures from a local ship spotter, Black Rabbit on Twitter, showed the new 30 FFM frigate for the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Group, Force rather, started sea trials yesterday, August 24th. And for us, that is yesterday. It's hot off the presses. All right. The Kumano, named after the Kumano River in the Kii Peninsula, central Japan, located in Narwhal, Wakayama, and me prefreshers. Man, my anime training is coming through there, isn't it? I nailed it. Was launched by local shipbuilder Mitsui Shipyard and Okayama on November 2020. That's when it was launched. So it's doing C2C trials now. The vessel is actually a second ship in the class. Okay, so it's ship number 2, but it's the newest one. Look at that. Okay, so the Mogami class, previously known as the 30DX, so it's the same ship if you know it by that name, is the next generation multi-mission frigate designed for the Japan JMSDF. A total number of 22 frigates are expected to be procured. That's a lot. Okay, let's see what kind of weapons this has. Let's see how this compares to our newest frigate, or the LCS, which technically not a frigate, smaller than a frigate. All right, so this ship here, pictured right here, has a Mark 45 Mod 4 5-inch naval gun, very common gun for American ships too, but much bigger than we have on LCS. So already this ship outguns the LCS. So it's got a working gun that's 5 inches. It also has 12.7 remotely operated chain guns. So those will be fun. It's got a Mark 41 VLS that's fitted but not with. So either here amidships or back here where it would have to be back here. Instead of the helipad, presumably, they could put a VLS there. It doesn't look like there would be enough room to have the VLS, and so it would have to be amidships. So whatever's here... Yeah, but they did not install that is the point. It just could be installed if they wanted to replace something. But they do have the CRAM, which is the missile version of the CWIS, CRAM 1. They have Type 17 anti-ship missiles. That's the Harpoon skis, the Japanese version of the Harpoons. They have 8 of those. So they do have some anti-ship capability. Now, I think anytime you put anti-ship missiles on a warship, you should have at least 24 or 32, because 8 is kind of useless, unless you're going to launch all 8 at once, and then you're done. They have a OPY2 multifunction radar with IR sensors. Okay, and here's the big thing. They have a full-time installed anti-mine sonar. So this ship can perform anti-pirate or, sea territorial enforcement with the 5-inch gun. They can defend themselves because they have a CWIS right here in CRAM, rather. They have the 12.7-inch millimeter gun. That's for anti-piracy. They can perform an anti-ship roll with their 8 missiles. They can perform a minesweep roll because they have a permanently installed, unlike our LCS, has a temporary installed anti-mine sonar. They have an anti-submarine sonar with VDS and a towed array. So this is a very well-rounded ship, multi-mission capable. It can pretty much do any mission that is required by modern naval vessels. It also has an unmanned SUV, or SV rather. That's underwater. Oh, it's a mine countermeasure. Okay, so we can go out there, find mines. It's part of the anti-mine package, it looks like. It also has mines itself for offensive mining of waters. So it can perform the mine mission, the anti-mine mission, anti-piracy mission, territorial fishing enforcement, and anti-ship roll. It's a well-rounded ship, very well designed. I'm pretty impressed with it. I wish Americans would build ships like this now. Instead, we build ships that have multiple pronouns. It's disgusting. Moving on. Let's talk about Australia in a good way. I have beat Australia to death over the past couple years, and I really feel bad for them. So here's some good news coming out of Australian shipbuilder Incat Crowther patrol boat for Thailand. They're building some of these patrol boats for their neighboring island or country of Thailand. Incat Crowther is pleased to announce that the construction is well underway on a 42-meter patrol boat vessel for operation in Thailand. Says from the piece written by Xavier Vavasseur of navalnews.com. The vessel is being built by Seacrest Marine and has been developed as a solution to a strict set of mission requirements. So Thailand came to them, said, hey, we need a vessel that does X, Y, and Z. And Australia was like, we got you, and they did it. Had they only done that for their submarines, but I'm not going to digress to that. The vessel will be the 8th INCAT crawler vessel to be built by the Seacrest Marine and will accommodate a 16 crew with 6 officers on a 14-day autonomy at sea. That's pretty good. It looks kind of like a luxury yacht. It's the shape of a luxury yacht, but it's got this big ass cannon on the front. I wonder what kind of cannon that is. Maybe it tells us in the piece. The main deck will house the crew and officers' mess, galley and stores, laundry, captain's cabin, and arms stores, with full walk-around deck, much like a yacht has. The aft deck has a deck crane and fast rescue vessel. Right there, you can see the rib. It's powered by a 3 MTU 16-valve 2000 M86 main engines driving a fixed-pitch propellers. The vessel will have a top speed of over 34 knots. That's really fast. It has a low draft. A low draft was a key requirement. So one of the requirements that Thailand required was that it doesn't draft very much. So it could potentially go up rivers, which in Thailand is really important for their coastal patrols. Awesome. And that's the end of the piece. A very short piece. The vessel is scheduled for sea trials later this year. It doesn't talk any specifics about the armament. They just mentioned that it has 3 marine diesel engines propelling a very shallow draft vessel with fixed pitch propellers. Yeah. It's a bath toy for Bezos. Yeah. Well, Bezos wouldn't get the gun, but it's a good looking boat. Like, I wouldn't mind owning something like that. That'd be great. Yeah. What do you guys think? Fabulous says, you can always tell the frigates are designed by lower detectable on the radar given the lack of straight vertical surfaces on the exterior. Everything is angled in some way. Yeah. Yeah, very much so, especially with the previous story. It certainly was. Yeah. Do you guys have any more comments about the Australian shipbuilder building these little patrol boats for Thailand? You want the deck gun? Oh, you want the boat and the deck gun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Derp says, imagine giving the Cajun Navy some Mark 19s and Bushmasters. I'm not here to be helpful with these suggestions. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if we want any civilians operating Bushmaster guns of this caliber, let's say. Yeah. Not sure that would be. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. If I was patrolling Grand Traverse Bay with this thing, that's right. I'd be up there with my little captain's hat on. Hell yeah. I'd go out sunbathing on the bow there. Instead of this gun, I just have a lounge chair out there with my little igloo cooler. Yeah. So it says, I want the Australian boat, but with a rail gun. No rail guns. Let's see. Wiss Minion says, just been chatting to some of the modders on the dot mod. They've said they've reworked the decoys. Really? This is great. I'm glad that they're taking my feedback. One, let me say this about the dot modders community. They have not given me any negative backlash on my comments. They've been very respectful with my criticism, which is a better response than I got from other mod makers that I'm not going to point out. So thank you for taking my criticism and, trying to make the mod better. I appreciate that. All right. Well, that's it for the Naval News segment today. I don't have anything else for you. We'll come back with some more cold waters in just a few minutes.